Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something really interesting?
I'm ready. What are we exploring today?
Today it's all about sodium bicarbonate. You know, baking soda.
Oh, yeah, the stuff in the pantry.
Yep. We're going to be unpacking Mark Serkis's book, Sodium Bicarbonate, Nature's Unique First Aid Remedy. And let me tell you, it's pretty amazing.
Baking soda, huh? What's so special
Ah,
about it?
that's just it. Serkis goes way beyond the usual uses for baking soda. He looks at how powerful it can be for keeping us healthy.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of what he talks about has to do with pH balance. That's like the balance between acidity and alkalinity in our bodies.
Right, pH. Our bodies need that balance, right?
Exactly. It's crucial for our bodies to function properly.
So, like a perfect 7 on the scale.
Well, not exactly. Our bodies aim for a slightly alkaline pH.
Slightly alkaline. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's usually around 7.35 to 7.45. And Serkis says sodium bicarbonate can be a big help in getting us to that balance and keeping it there.
Interesting. But doesn't sodium bicarbonate already have some uses in regular medicine?
That's what's so fascinating. It does. Where have you seen it used?
Well, I know it's used in hospitals, like in emergency rooms and ICUs, right?
You got it. They use it to treat something called metabolic acidosis.
That's where the blood gets too acidic or
Exactly. And it's a serious condition. They also use it during chemotherapy.
to protect healthy cells from the chemo drugs.
You're on a roll.
Yeah.
So even conventional medicine recognizes sodium bicarbonate as an important tool in some pretty critical situations.
Yeah, it's a powerful little substance. So how does Circus expand on that?
Well, he basically takes that idea and runs with it. He's collected a lot of anecdotal evidence and case studies suggesting that sodium bicarbonate could be useful in many more ways.
Anecdotal evidence? You mean personal stories?
Yep, stories from people who have seen real improvements in their health after using sodium bicarbonate.
Okay, I'm curious now. What kind of stories are we talking about?
One really striking example is about a doctor named Tullio Simoncini. He used sodium bicarbonate to treat a young boy who was in a coma,
A coma. How old was he?
just 11 years old,
Yeah.
and he had leukemia. It's a heartbreaking situation,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
The boy's mother was just desperate to hear his voice again.
Yeah.
And after Simoncini used the bicarbonate treatment, the boy reportedly came out of the coma.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, I know it's just one story, but still.
I know, right? It really makes you think about the potential sodium bicarbonate might have for healing that we haven't even tapped into yet.
For sure. Are there any other stories like that?
There are. For example, there was someone who had really bad hives and urticaria, like chronic, all the time.
That sounds awful.
It is. But after reading Serkis's book and trying sodium bicarbonate, they actually found relief.
It's really amazing to think that something so simple, something we have sitting in our kitchens, could have such a powerful effect.
That's exactly what Serkis argues in his book.
Right.
He says sodium bicarbonate is a natural, inexpensive solution to a whole bunch of health concerns, and we're just overlooking it.
I can see why you're so interested in this. It does sound fascinating.
It is. But here's where things get really interesting. Serkis actually explores sodium bicarbonate as a potential treatment for cancer.
Wow. Hold on. Cancer treatment. Baking soda.
I know it sounds wild, right? He even dives into this controversial theory by a doctor named Simoncini. Simoncini actually believes that cancer is a fungus.
Wait, cancer is a fungus?
Yeah, that's Simoncini's theory. It's
Yeah.
pretty out there, I know. But his idea is that cancer cells love an acidic environment, one with very little oxygen.
Right, I've heard that cancer cells thrive in acidic environments.
Exactly. So Simoncini says that by using sodium bicarbonate, we can make the body more alkaline.
So it's like changing the environment, making it tougher for cancer cells to survive.
Exactly. It's all about shifting the playing field.
So what kind of evidence does Simoncini use to support this?
He points to a few things. He talks about lab studies that show cancer cells burning through glucose really fast, which creates a lot of acid in the tissues around them.
So fueling their own acidic environment in a way.
Right. And he also shares a bunch of case studies of patients who, he says, have responded well to his sodium bicarbonate protocols.
That's interesting, but I imagine the mainstream medical community isn't too keen on this theory.
You're right, there's a lot of skepticism. Most oncologists believe cancer is way more complicated than just a fungal infection.
Yeah, it makes sense. Cancer is a complex disease.
Exactly. But I have to give Serkis credit. He doesn't shy away from exploring these alternative viewpoints and showing the anecdotal evidence that backs them up.
I can appreciate that. It's good to be open to different ideas.
For sure. And he shares quite a few stories from patients and practitioners who've tried sodium bicarbonate in their cancer treatment plans and say they've seen positive results.
Hmm, okay. Like what?
Well, there's this one doctor in Africa who's been using sodium bicarbonate to treat prostate cancer. He's seen some really good outcomes, even a drop in PSA levels.
That's pretty significant if it's true.
Right. And there's another story about a patient with pancreatic cancer who claims they're no longer in pain after using a sodium bicarbonate protocol from someone named Vernon Johnston.
Wow. Pancreatic cancer is notoriously difficult to treat, so that's a pretty big claim.
I know. It's pretty incredible. Circus also talks about using sodium bicarbonate with things like maple syrup or molasses.
Really? What's the thinking behind that?
Well, the idea is that the sugar in the maple syrup or molasses acts like a magnet, drawing cancer cells in, and then the bicarbonate can work its magic.
So it's like tricking the cancer cells.
Exactly. Like a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
But of course, I have to add a disclaimer here.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. This isn't something people should try on their own.
Absolutely not. It's super important to emphasize that using sodium bicarbonate for cancer should always be part of a holistic treatment plan and done with a qualified healthcare professional.
Agreed. It's not a DIY approach to cancer.
Not at all. But even though the cancer stuff is super interesting, Circus doesn't stop there. He goes on to look at all sorts of other uses for sodium bicarbonate, like how it can help with fungal infections and allergies.
Hold on. We went from baking soda for heartburn to baking soda for cancer, and now it can help with fungal infections and allergies. This is a lot to take in.
It is. But that's what I find so cool about this deep dive. Baking soda is this simple thing with so many potential uses.
Right, I'm with you. Let's break this down a bit. You mentioned antifungal properties. So how does baking soda fight fungus?
Well, it turns out that just like cancer cells, fungi thrive in acidic environments.
Uh-huh. And baking soda can neutralize that acidity.
You got it. By making the body more alkaline, sodium bicarbonate can make it harder for fungi to grow.
Interesting. So we're talking about making the body less hospitable to fungus.
Exactly. And there are a lot of examples of sodium bicarbonate being used to tackle fungal infections. Like farmers use it to protect crops from fungal diseases.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, and it's even used to treat fungal vaginitis.
So it can be used both internally and externally to fight fungus.
Right. And Circus also mentions that it might be helpful for treating colds and the flu.
Wait a minute, baking soda for colds and flu?
Yeah. He even found this old booklet published by the Arm& Hammer Company, the baking soda people.
Yeah, of course.
Well, back in 1926, they were actually recommending specific doses of sodium bicarbonate for colds and flu.
That's amazing. It seems like we've forgotten about some of these old school remedies.
It really does. And Circus argues that we've become way too dependent on pharmaceuticals and have ignored simple, natural solutions like sodium bicarbonate.
Makes you think, doesn't it? So I've got cancer, fungus, colds, and flu. What about allergies? Did he mention anything about that?
He did. Circus talks about the work of a doctor named Eric Chan, who used intravenous sodium bicarbonate to help patients with allergies and chemical sensitivities. And he saw some good results.
Intravenous? That's pretty serious.
Yeah, it is. But some patients even found relief just by having a drink with sodium bicarbonate every night.
Interesting. So maybe sodium bicarbonate can help balance the immune system and reduce allergic reactions.
That's the idea. But get this, Circus also talks about something called magnesium bicarbonate. He calls it the ultimate mitochondrial cocktail.
Magnesium bicarbonate, what's that all about?
That's a great question. We'll have to dive into that in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. But before we move on, I just want to remind everyone that this deep dive is based on Mark Circus's book, Sodium Bicarbonate, Nature's Unique First Aid Remedy. If you're interested in learning more, you can get a PDF copy of the book from Refi's Linktree.
Right. It's linktr.eeoonukens.
It's a really great resource for anyone who wants to delve deeper into this topic.
Okay, we'll be back with part 2 soon, so stay tuned.
Okay, so magnesium bicarbonate. You mentioned it's the ultimate mitochondrial cocktail. What makes it so special?
Well, to really understand that, we need to talk about CO2.
CO2, carbon dioxide. But isn't that a bad thing, like with climate change?
Right, too much CO2 in the atmosphere is a problem.
Ugh.
But inside our bodies, it's actually really important.
Okay, so it's about balance again.
Exactly. CO2 is a key player in something called the bicarbonate buffer system. That's what helps regulate our pH.
The pH balance we were talking about before.
Yep. Think of it this way. Our metabolism creates acids.
Which we need to neutralize.
Exactly. And that's where bases like bicarbonate come in. They neutralize the acids, keeping everything balanced.
Okay, I'm following. So where does CO2 fit into all of this?
Well, CO2 can actually be converted into carbonic acid,
And carbonic acid.
breaks down into bicarbonate ions. It's like a chain reaction.
Wow, so our bodies use CO2 to make bicarbonate.
Exactly. And that bicarbonate is what helps keep our pH in check.
Okay, that makes sense. So if we don't have enough CO2, we can't make enough bicarbonate, and our pH might get too acidic. Is that where sodium bicarbonate helps?
You got it. Sodium bicarbonate gives our bodies a direct source of bicarbonate. It's like giving our system an extra boost. And magnesium bicarbonate takes things even further.
How so?
Well, remember how we said magnesium and bicarbonate work together?
Yeah, like a team.
Right. Well, magnesium actually helps get that bicarbonate into our cells. And the bicarbonate helps transport magnesium into the mitochondria.
The mitochondria, those are the powerhouses of our cells.
Exactly. So they're both helping each other out, making sure each one gets to where it needs to be to do its job.
It's like they're each other's wingmen.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And when our mitochondria are working well, it has a huge impact on our overall health and energy.
I can imagine. So what kind of benefits are we talking about?
Circus suggests that magnesium bicarbonate can really amp up our cellular energy production.
That sounds great. What else?
It can also help reduce the buildup of acid in our bodies.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it can even improve how well we absorb magnesium. Oh, that's interesting. I've heard magnesium is really important for a lot of things.
It is. Magnesium is involved in hundreds of processes in our bodies. So making sure we have enough is crucial.
Absolutely. This is all fascinating. So we've talked about sodium bicarbonate and cancer, and now magnesium bicarbonate and mitochondria. Circus seems to connect all these different ideas together.
He does. And he even takes it a step further and links magnesium bicarbonate to aging.
Hold on, aging, you mean like wrinkles and gray hair?
Well, yes, but it's more about how our cells age. One of the big signs of aging is that our cells just don't produce as much energy as they used to.
Right, things start to slow down as we get older.
Exactly. And Circus suggests that by supporting our mitochondria with magnesium bicarbonate, we might be able to keep our cells younger and more energetic for longer.
So it's like giving ourselves an anti-aging boost.
That's the idea. It's a pretty fascinating concept. And Circus points to some early research that suggests magnesium bicarbonate could even help with age-related health problems.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I definitely want to learn more about this. But for now, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about what sodium bicarbonate can do, but what about how we actually use it?
That's a great point. It's not just about mixing it with water, right?
Right, there are different ways to take it, aren't there?
Yep. We talked about oral ingestion, which can be as simple as adding it to water or a drink. Circus actually recommends mixing it with molasses.
Molasses? Why molasses?
He says it can actually help your body absorb the sodium bicarbonate better. And there are other ways to use it too.
Like those bicarbonate baths, right?
You got it. That's called transdermal absorption. It means the sodium bicarbonate goes right through your skin.
Makes sense. Soaking in a nice warm bath sounds a lot more relaxing than just drinking it.
It is. And it can be really good for skin problems too. But there's another method that might surprise you. Nebulization.
Nebulization? What's that?
Where you inhale a really fine mist of sodium bicarbonate.
Inhale it, like breathing it in.
Yep. It's a common way to treat breathing problems like asthma. But Circus thinks it could help with other respiratory issues too, maybe even lung cancer.
Wow. So instead of going through your stomach, it goes straight into your lungs.
Right. It's a more direct approach. It can be really helpful for people who have trouble absorbing things orally or need fast relief from breathing problems.
Okay, so we've got drinking it, bathing in it, and even breathing it in. Seems like there are a lot of options.
There are. And Circus does give some general advice on dosage in his book. But it's really important to remember that everyone is different. The best dosage and method for you might not be the same for someone else.
Right, it's not one size fits all.
Exactly. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before trying anything new, especially if you have health problems or are already taking medication.
Absolutely. This is all really great information, but I have to say, some of it sounds a bit too good to be true.
I know what you mean. There are definitely some things about sodium bicarbonate that are still up for debate, and we need to be careful about just believing everything we hear.
Right. So before we get into part 3, maybe we should remind everyone about where they can find more information and how to think critically about all of this.
Absolutely. We are basing this deep dive on Mark Circus's book, Sodium Bicarbonate, Nature's Unique First Aid Remedy. If you want to explore this further on your own, you can find a link to get a PDF copy on Rafi's Linktree.
Yep, that's linktr.eea.
Read the book, do your own research, and we'll be back with part 3 soon. All right, welcome back for the final part of our sodium bicarbonate deep dive.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, from pH balance in cancer to infections and magnesium bicarbonate.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked about this simple substance.
It really is. But as with any health topic, there are always different opinions in areas where people disagree.
Right, not everyone sees eye to eye on everything.
Exactly. So for this last part, let's dive into some of the more controversial aspects of sodium bicarbonate.
Sounds good. What do we have?
Well, one thing that people debate about is using sodium bicarbonate as a daily supplement.
Oh, interesting. You mean like taking it every day to maintain pH balance?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people swear by it, but others warn against it.
What are their concerns?
Well, they worry that taking sodium bicarbonate all the time could mess with our body's natural ability to regulate itself.
Oh, I see. Like our bodies are designed to maintain balance on their own.
Right. It's all about finding that sweet spot. Using sodium bicarbonate strategically when we need it, not just taking it all the time without thinking.
So it's about being mindful and not overdoing it.
Exactly. Our bodies are complex systems, and we don't want to throw them out of whack.
Makes sense. What other controversial uses are there?
Well, there's also the whole thing about sodium bicarbonate for heartburn.
Oh, yeah. I know people use baking soda for that all the time. It's a common antacid.
It is. But some experts say it might not be the best long-term solution.
Really? Why not?
Well, they argue that sometimes frequent heartburn could be a sign of low stomach acid.
Wait, low stomach acid? I thought heartburn meant you had too much acid.
That's what most people think. But some experts believe that sometimes it's the opposite. If your stomach isn't producing enough acid, you might actually have problems digesting food properly.
That's interesting. So popping an antacid like sodium bicarbonate might actually make things worse in those cases.
It could. It might just cover up the symptoms without fixing the underlying problem.
That makes sense. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger wound. You need to address the root cause.
Exactly. This whole deep dive has really shown me how much there is to learn about sodium bicarbonate. It's not just a simple yes or no, good or bad kind of thing.
I agree. It's nuanced and complex.
And that's why critical thinking is so important. We're bombarded with information all the time, especially when it comes to health.
It can be overwhelming for sure. How do we know what to believe?
That's the million-dollar question. We have to be really careful about what we read and hear. We need to ask questions, look for reliable sources, check if there are scientific studies to back up the claims, and talk to healthcare professionals we trust.
It's about taking responsibility for our own health and making informed choices, right?
Exactly. And being open to different perspectives, even if they challenge conventional wisdom.
That's been a big part of this deep dive, hasn't it? Questioning assumptions and exploring different possibilities.
It has. We've looked at sodium bicarbonate in a whole new light, and I hope we've encouraged our listeners to do the same, to think critically and keep learning.
I think we've accomplished that. So before we wrap up, let's remind everyone about Mark Serkis's book one last time.
Yes. It's called Sodium Bicarbonate, Nature's Unique First Aid Remedy. If you want to delve deeper into all of this, definitely check it out.
You can find a link to get a PDF copy from Razi's Linktree. That's linktr.eei to tuck the coftons.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this sodium bicarbonate adventure. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more we learn, the better equipped we are to take care of ourselves.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
Until next time.